I think it's good afternoon at this stage, but good afternoon to everyone. It may seem strange that someone from the bottled water business is speaking at a conference on sustainability, but I speak to you here today in the context of someone whose company is trying to lead the way in a transition towards renewable packaging. It's fairly well understood at this stage that the reputational challenges that the industry is facing, particularly in the context of their use of fossil fuel-based plastics. And that causes a dilemma for companies like our own in the sense of how do we continue to provide natural, pure, high-quality water to an eager and growing customer base without continuing to contribute and damage the environment. So let me step back for a second and look at, why is that sector continuing to grow and it's showing about 5 to 6% growth on a yearly basis. On the upside, the consumer today is ever more conscious of the positive health benefits of good hydration. And we're seeing a transition away from sugar drinks. Also, not everyone is comfortable in drinking water from the tap for a variety of reasons. And the convenience associated with bottled water has provided a viable alternative to many of the consumers. It's ironic in a sense, but the advent of the plastic bottle was a key catalyst in the explosive growth of the water industry. Unfortunately, for a long time, the negative environmental impacts of that were left unaddressed. And it's only recently we're beginning to see significant changes and investments to address that. And that, combined with policies such as the EU Directive on Single-Use Plastics and government legislation, is forcing the industry to take responsibility and drive change, be that through the adoption of and use of recycled plastics, through the implementation of, let's say, tethered caps to avoid litter, or to drive investment into the use of alternative packaging that is more sustainable. If a bottle is recyclable, doesn't automatically mean that it gets recycled. And that's where the responsibility lies with you and I, to make sure that it does make it into the recycle chain. Data from the EPA would suggest that less than 30% of plastics make it into the recycle chain. Deposit return schemes have been shown to drive significant improvements in this area. And later this year in Ireland, we're going to see one such scheme being implemented, which will focus on plastic bottles and aluminium beverage cans. However, these systems of their own will not remove and eliminate the use of fossil-based plastics in the industry. What's equally important is that we look at a targets-based approach that will actually measure the effectiveness of the industry in achieving those recycling targets. And those targets, whether the systems underlying those are deposit return schemes or technology-based solutions that segregate product in the recycling facilities. But these targets need to apply to all beverage containers, not just plastic and aluminium beverage cans as is currently being planned. We're a small company, innovative company, but we've chosen to go down the route of maybe the slightly riskier route of looking at alternative materials. And over the past 2 years, we've been looking to transition, where possible, our products from the traditional packaging to renewable packaging. And such as the carton here, which is made from 88%, currently made from 88% plant-based materials, and is fully recyclable into the standard recycle bin. Once it gets into the recycling process, it is then classed as part of paperboard, and the EPA data would suggest that about 90% of all paper product goes into the recycling process. So that's good from our perspective, but we want to continue to drive improvements there. So let me leave you with a few thoughts. For all the right reasons, people are drinking more and more water. And I think that trend is going to continue. In the context of plastic, through bottom-up effort and top-down legislation, We are seeing changes, but they are slow. As an example, the EU directive would suggest that by 2030, we need to have 30% of any plastic container needs to contain 30% recycled plastic. Some companies today are actually producing 100% recycled plastic, so bottles made from bottles. So we need to try and accelerate those processes. In the context of alternatives to plastic bottles, there are alternatives available, such as this type of product, complete with its tethered cap. These are available, they can meet the customer need, and they're actually based on renewable type materials. And I would ask, in the context of packaging, if it's not renewable, can it in the long term be sustainable? You might say that if we continue to dance with fossil fuel-based plastics, it's like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And the future of the industry has to be with a move towards renewable materials.